This is going to be an Avengers Age of Ultron spoiler cast. We're going to just talk about everything we liked and didn't like about the film. If you've seen the movie, stick around, keep watching. If you haven't, bookmark it, come back, watch the rest of this later. We're also going we'll clip it out and stuff too if you didn't want to watch the rest of the podcast, which you should. We're good. Without further ado and spoiler warnings, let's get into it. Overall, I'm going to let you two do most of the talking because my review is up on the site. So, Roth, let's start with you. What did you think of Avengers Age of Ultron?
I liked it. I thought it had a lot it had to handle. It sort of had a lot of moving parts that Joss Whedon had a lot of moving parts that he had to manage in this one. I think that it suffers a little bit from the weight of expectations. I feel like that after the first Avengers movie that everybody loves so much, or most people love so much, the expectations for Avengers 2, but then grew exponentially after Winter Soldier and Guardians were such financial hits, but also so critically beloved. You know how much I love those movies. And I went into, I think, the second Avengers, and then at that point you're like, wow, if these solo movies are great, the team must be like the second coming, you know? And I think that it really had those kinds of expectations going in. For me anyway, and it's very, very hard to live up to. It's a lot of fun. It's a really funny movie, especially in that first act. It's like hilarious. It's good action. It's great banter, great team. But it has so many moving parts that it does, and it has the weight of the intricacy of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I think that's a lot to handle, and it gets a little messier than the first film. And Ultron, I thought was great, but wasn't quite what I was picturing. Especially the relationship between Tony and Ultron, I thought could have got a little deeper, but there was just too much to handle elsewhere. But my favorite part of the movie, hands down, is the Vision, and he was barely in it. But I love the Vision so much. It's stupid. Like, I love that character.
Crazy stupid.
But it's to the point that I'm like, the Vision's too good for the Avengers. Like, not like that I don't like the other characters, but I mean, he's beneficent.
He's got an Infinity Stone.
He's got an Infinity Stone. He's so far above them, so that the idea that he would then like be in training with, I was like, you're training him, you know, like.
The only one I could see him really being able to call his equal is Thor.
Yeah,
but even then
he's not. But the reason that I don't think he's even above Thor is because Thor is so driven by his ego, and it's hilarious and really fun to watch. Like, I love that moment. Like, Jane's better. But the Vision's like actually like a deity to me. Like, he has compassion for Ultron, but he knows he has to put him down. He just is so far superior, even in those few moments, to the rest of them in terms of like his ethical and moral compass, that I'm like, you're too good for that, Vision.
Joshua, what did you think?
I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't as good as the first one, I suppose. Although I've only seen it once, and you know, we've heard about it for the second the first Avengers ended. We're like, what's gonna happen in the next one? And we've been following it so close in interviews and previews and trailer rewinds and stuff like that. So there's a lot going in of like muddying my expectations and just my vision of the movie. And I also noticed a lot from the trailer was cut out of the movie, which is sort of like a weird thing. A lot of shots and stuff. After seeing it, I don't think it was quite as good as the first Avengers, but I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was weird that my favorite moment of the movie was a Hawkeye speech. The speech that he gives to Scarlet Witch gave me, it was awesome. Like, he gets, you know, what it means to be an Avenger. Like, whoever wrote that, was it Joss Whedon?
Yeah.
Joss Whedon gets it. Give that guy a job.
He's going places.
Although I will say that I never felt endeared to Quicksilver or the Scarlet Witch. So when she actually did step out, I was like, I mean, cool action scene, but I didn't really care, you know.
Did you see it coming?
When she came out of
when
Quicksilver.
Quicksilver died.
Quicksilver, and I love Quicksilver from the comic books, but when he died in the movie, again, I was just like, I didn't especially like his character, or I wasn't endeared to him in any way. They sure had a tragic story, but again, there were so many moving parts, like you're saying, that it was hard to latch onto anyone. And like, going back to Hawkeye, I feel like they really tried to make up for his by giving him like his family and giving him a lot more screen time. But even then, he still was like relegated to like, I will help rescue all these people while you guys do all the action and the fighting and the important stuff with stopping Ultron. So it was sort of like, yeah, we see him getting more screen time, but is he really doing anything more important? Or maybe, well, not that it's not important to save people, but, you know, as far as...
Screw saving children.
Yeah,
you know,
wait a
What
minute.
kind of scut work is that?
But you know what I mean,
but
right?
that was Hawkeye's. I feel like Hawkeye's whole message, and the reason that we saw him on the farm with the family is like he is the human center of this group. He is the part that represents even more so than Black Widow, even though the just vulnerable, very everyday human being side, and so that his task to get those people out, of course that's important. What's more important than that?
Sure, of course. I don't. Again, I didn't mean to, you know.
You hate humanity.
I hate children.
Wants children.
But and I
You
will,
beat puppies.
I will agree with what you said about the Vision. He was not only like just one of the coolest characters, of just this amalgamation of like science and of magic
Yeah.
and just, you know, ego and the brains of Banner and Tony Stark. But also just that visually he was so impressive of shooting like the laser out of his forehead and like phasing. They did the phasing powers where he phased into a robot and ripped him apart.
Yeah.
It was glorious. And then there was that shot. I think it was Iron Man, Vision, and was it Thor all blasting,
Yeah.
melting Ultron at the same time?
Yeah.
I was getting like nerd tears when that happened.
Did you mind the eyes?
That he had real eyes?
Yeah. Well, he doesn't because if you look really, really
Sure.
close,
I mean, they're
It's a little-
mechanical.
they're mechanical, but that they look like real eyes.
I actually like that. They're sort of like the lens of like a camera, like an
Yeah.
iris of
Yeah,
a camera.
shutter.
Because I know a lot of
Yeah.
people that drew umbrage with that because they feel like, you know, but that it was there for two reasons, that the audience can relate to him a little bit more, and that they're already starting to probably ship him and Scarlet Witch in for make it feel a little more human, more romantic.
But
But
it makes sense, though, that, look, he is, one of the things I liked about it, and I mentioned this in the review, and again, I won't chew up too much time since my review is on the site, but the Vision is supposed to be a synthesis of organic, something human, and something machine, and I did love that it was, for the most part, you know, mainly a practical effect, and like you were saying earlier, you know, you were on set and you saw that he looked different on set as to what he ended up with in the movie. So there's obviously digital augmentation there with the cape and all that. And I did love the little bit where he just looks at Thor and like, I want a cape.
I like
Yeah,
that.
I liked when he was building his
Yeah.
costume, and I think another obvious thing is that, you know, Paul Bettany, they want to let him use his eyes to act,
Yeah.
and they want to
Yeah.
capture that. So if they just make them like blank yellow things, like in the comic book, it
Yeah.
wouldn't really work. But yeah, another thing about the movie is that Ultron, I really liked James Spader doing like the Ultron voice and how he did not seem like an evil robot. He seemed like a person almost, which was the idea. But I also was sort of missing sort of a big moment for Ultron that I thought, oh, I really love to hate him, or oh my God, I can't believe he did that. I liked his plan of, you know, destroying the Earth, like, you know, the
I
dinosaurs.
liked his plan to destroy the Earth.
I liked the inventiveness because I'm like, what is he doing lifting
Yeah.
this island up? And then I was like, oh my God, he's creating like an asteroid.
That's
That's
what
going to
Lex
be great.
Luthor should have done. in
Yeah,
Man of
it's
Steel.
very Superman Returns. But again, I thought
Superman Returns, yes,
sort
thank
of
you.
missing sort of just the definitive Ultron moment in the movie.
The one moment, the moment from, I agree, like, I think that I went in with so many expectations about what Ultron was going to be in this movie, and it wasn't quite that, you know. But the one moment that I did love with him is when he cuts off his arm. He's like, I'm sorry. You know, like.
Yeah, what
My
did
bad,
you
I
think
just
of the humor in there? I mean, he was a lot funnier than I was expecting. I
Yeah.
mean, the trailers only say, you know, there are no strings on me. Like you were
Yeah.
expecting this really ominous thing.
He's so funny.
And instead, he does mirror, you know, Tony Stark's glib personality.
I feel like you know, in this world with these characters that Ultron and Vision are I feel like Ultron is that side of Tony. It's like the manifestation of his superego, you know, that is the part of him that is a megalomaniac and thinks that he knows best, and I have the plan, but my plan's really ultimately destructive because no one person has the plan for anybody else, you know. But then Vision's like the counter of that because that's part of Tony too, you know, and he's partially birthed from that too, and Banner. So that's kind of something that's interesting. But like, I liked that he took on that personality trait of the glibness. I thought it made it really. It's a fun movie to watch, you know, and I think the humor certainly is one of the best parts of it.
What was your favorite sort of surprise element outside of the humor, but surprise element or sort of Easter eggy type thing that popped up in the movie for you? Joshua.
Goodness. Sort of like a really small one that I didn't notice until after I saw it was that Dr. Cho, she's a Korean scientist, right?
Yeah.
I was like, Cho, who is that? It's actually the mother of Amadeus Cho, who's like a superpowered teen in the comic book. So I'm hoping, like, crossing my fingers, he might show up. Very like C, like D list in terms of like popularity.
That's good enough for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, hey, I told her to show up, and she can then cameo. She's like, "Have you seen my son?" And they have a whole episode where they go look for him. But I thought that was cool. There were lots of little things like Ultron. Of course, we have another piece just highlighting all of the Easter eggs you can check out on the site eventually. But he's wearing the red cloak, which is originally in the comic books he was the Crimson Cowl, which was a cool thing. There were lots of little things, but it wasn't a big movie for Easter eggs and like secrets and like stuff like that, like from the comic books. It was more just like, here's the movie, we've established our continuity. There was a lot of moments where they referenced their own continuity, like obviously the beginning of the Hydra base. They had all the stuff from the Battle of New York. Thor's visions were of the Infinity Stones, which we've seen in all the other movies, and now sort of put him on the path to, like, I guess, find those.
Let me ask you, what did you guys think of? Because that was one of my cons, one of my demerits in the review was, I hated the whole Thor detour thing. Let's go take a magic bath. And, everyone else, it was a vision of their past, and then he was like, I'm a giant beefcake. I'm just going to go into my mountain bath and
I think
try and see
maybe
Ragnarok.
asking Joshua and I if we are pro Hemsworth taking off his shirt and getting in a bath.
Frankly, there probably wasn't enough of it.
There wasn't nearly
so you're
enough.
Like, why is this sequence in there? Because to me, it was a very ham-handed way to kind of like, hey, Thor 3 is coming.
Okay. So in truth, I agree with you. That sequence I felt was very odd, did not fit with the movie, felt very randomly thrown in, and clearly a setup for where Thor is going, and it had very little to do with the actual plot of the movie. I'm not angry at Hemsworth topless, but it was also one of those moments where, and I want to ask you guys what you think about this, because I always think of my brother when I watch stuff like this. He's like my litmus test.
He takes a lot of baths and mountain caves?
No, I don't think of my brother in the bath. But what I do think is, would he understand what's happening here? Like, and I feel like there's so much of the movie that probably people watching this would immediately know what they're talking about, and that we would know. But even that opening sequence, so certainly the bath thing, I feel like at that point, so much of the audience is going to be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But even the opening sequence, to assume that they know what Hydra is, and I know that sounds crazy, but what if you only saw the first Avengers movie? I mean, to assume that everybody has seen everything, I think is inaccurate.
But I think by that point, once they realize that, they've already got your money.
No,
and this is the most comic booky of them all, I think, really, in a way. Like, it's like,
because it has continuity issues.
Well,
yes.
You can almost see like the little caption of like, asterisk, C issue, whatever, of Tales of Suspense. Or
yeah,
whatever,
like I said, it is like very self-referential, and I like that about it. It's that you want this Marvel Cinematic Universe to like make you wonder, who is Hydra? So maybe go watch S.H.I.E.L.D., where that plays a big part. And then also, just to answer the Thor question, was I get that it felt out of place in the movie, and it did feel out of place, but I also think that it gave everyone else sort of like their horrors, which were very personal and like down to earth, whereas Thor is a god and operates on another level, so his concerns are on a much higher level. They are of stones with immeasurable power that are being gathered by a being, and the fall of Asgard, an entire realm. You know what I mean? Like, in the end of everything, like that. Those are his concerns. Where we're like, I didn't get that dance.
Well, it's interesting though, because Thor's concerns are of the future. His visions are in the future, whereas the rest of them it's in their past or some dark secret. Although Tony's
Tony,
there.
I would equate his more to Tony's.
I
feel like actually Tony and Thor that had similar fears of like them being the cause of other people being destroyed and in pain, and in Tony's case it was like the entire Earth. But that just tells you how big his ego is.
Yeah.
Like, no, I mean really, like it's a great character moment, because it's like, your biggest fear is that you will literally end the world. Like, wow, you think a lot of yourself, you know. But then he kind of could have, and he
How come he's
almost
not
did.
arrested at the
You
end?
know, like
Seriously, how come he's not arrested at the end? Everyone knows that he did it.
yeah.
Like, I don't understand how these guys keep getting, well, they're here. I guess this is where Civil War is going to come in, but like, there's no repercussion for any of the stuff that they did. There was that throwaway line that, you know, they might try to arrest Banner,
Yeah.
but no mention of Tony. Maybe, I guess, money talks.
Money,
in
but
that.
money does talk. I mean, that's why that doesn't really bother me, because it's like he is with all of that money, he is untouchable pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
You know, I agree with you that it's fun for us, I think, to see something and know where all of these references are coming from. But I do think it's a big challenge, and I think he manages the challenge. You know, if you look at Iron Man 2, which seemed very full and like it was trying to serve a lot of masters and it didn't really work, I think Joss Whedon pulled it off here, that he had a lot to manage and he was serving many masters, and it actually worked and made a cohesive whole, you know?
Can I ask you guys what you thought of the Nick Fury stuff? Because that was another con in my review. Was I thought, especially coming on the heels of Winter Soldier, which had such a great ending as the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D., and Nick Fury burns the eye patch, he goes on the run, assumes that identity, they put up a damn tombstone for him. And now he's just back with his eye patch, back stateside, even though we're going to go to Europe, has a helicarrier. It's like, what the hell? Is S.H.I.E.L.D. dead or what? Like, what's going on? You just find a helicarrier. And for me, it was such a, I'm not very good with Latin, but I know what I'm saying, a deus ex machina of like, literally like a god machine is thrown in there to save the day. And I really hated that. I thought it was it was like subpar for what I've come to expect from them, because there was no setup and no justification for any of that. Like, why did you ended Nick Fury's story? So what the hell? Like, I needed something. Instead of seeing Thor take his mountain cave bath, I needed to find out, wait a minute, Nick Fury is back for a pep talk, and in the meantime, he's going to go get helicarrier out of mothballs. Like, that's what you should have explained. Don't save the Ragnarok stuff for when you actually have time to justify it. You know?
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you just said, that they undercut. Yeah, and we're done. Next topic.
Next topic.
They undercut the consequence of having no shield, is that you would not be able to rely on one of their resources, which is having these massive helicarriers that can do a lot of things to help save the day. There's supposed to be a world without that, but then we have it. It robs the impact of the ending of Winter Soldier.
And what Cap said too, which is, you know, and there's that line in Age of Ultron where he says that's what S.H.I.E.L.D. is supposed to be, or something like that. Like, well, then you didn't really give it much of a chance. You flushed it right down the toilet in front of the whole world, and we all liked it, you know. So like, to me, it seemed wildly inconsistent with what they had just done.
Yeah, and what they are doing on S.H.I.E.L.D., which is that it has dissolved, you know, and it's these kind of, well, we won't talk about S.H.I.E.L.D., but I agree, yeah. I think they needed an out. I mean, I truly think they were on a huge floating rock and needed an out in the story.
Okay, let's talk about the one of the characters and where they may have gone. So by the end, well, actually, let's preface that, or we can kind of combine it, I guess. But like, look, Hulk makes his escape in the end because, you know, he smashed up that city with the Hulkbuster fight, and you know, I can't be with you, Black Widow. By the way, I totally didn't buy that whole subplot, that romance.
Really? Okay.
I didn't like it. It didn't feel earned to me. It felt very manufactured. I just never bought her really digging this guy in that way.
Why?
I just didn't. I just thought
You just didn't think they had chemistry?
I think she would have looked at him like one of her friend's little brothers. You know what I mean? Like
Banner,
I think to me, she just never struck me. I never bought the whole idea of, like, I know she has her monster speech, but I just didn't buy it.
posit this.
Pause it.
Okay.
Pause it away.
I posit that he actually represents, quite literally, the good boy and the bad boy wrapped in one. I posit that Black Widow has had her fair share of bad boys in her life in the human form, and that there's something about his sweetness, about Banner's sweetness, that she finds very attractive, but at the same time, she knows that bubbling beneath that is the danger that he could Hulk out at any given time and rip her to shreds, and that's hot. I posit that. So I do
it's
buy
the
it.
Catherine Trammell basic instinct attraction of like, she's hot, but she could kill me.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Now you've given me something to think about.
Let's watch it
Joshua.
again and see that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, are we talking about if we buy the romance or just the Hulk in general?
Well, real quick, do you buy the romance? And then I want to ask you guys, where do we think he went in the end? And you've got a theory, but Joshua, real quick, what do you think of the romantic stuff?
I thought it was like okay. I didn't feel a lot of like the chemistry to it. But on the other hand, I did appreciate when she pointed out that of all these like egomaniacs and the good old American boys and the rest of them, he's just this thoughtful like scientist who does have the Hulk underneath.
Yeah.
So it obviously is, and he didn't want to be a problem for her, and obviously he can destroy a city if gone unchecked. So that is a lot to put on a person and try and make a romance out of that. Because as they pointed out, they will never have a life like Hawkeye, who's like the sort of the go-to like human of the Avengers.
No little Hulk
we talked
babies.
about. But as far as where his Hulk goes
That'd
in the
be
end,
a rough pregnancy.
that's the question, isn't it? And I love that they did that. That they it's the Bill Bixby. Walking to the music, just trying to find his way by himself. Like, that is the Hulk. The Hulk isn't a guy who can be on a team for a long time. So that was really cool. And are you doing the music?
Yeah, I'm just playing in the background as you keep talking.
As I hitchhike. But so it's like, where does he go next? Didn't they say he ditched his Quinjet? They're like,
Well, they weren't
Well,
entirely sure.
yeah.
Like it went down. I
they
forget
said,
what it.
they
was
said it's
it
hard
the
to
Indian
track
Ocean?
his
Yeah.
craft, but it looked like it went down in the ocean.
They
Yeah.
think, but there's a question mark.
Yeah, so obviously I feel like a comic book fan wants to see him go is into space.
Yeah.
And see Planet Hulk story, where he goes to another planet. Maybe does pretty much the Gladiator movie where he goes from like a slave to a gladiator to a king. Although in the Gladiator movie he dies. Spoiler. But yeah,
Spoilers
and
for
then he comes
Gladiator.
back to Earth and actually wages war on the Earth in World War Hulk. But I don't see that happening, because in the comic book they forcibly jettisoned him to space, but this would be his idea. But I don't know where he could go. I don't see him thinking, I will go into space, because he has no reason to go into space as far as they've
But you
set
have
up.
a theory
But
about it.
he is for sure as heck going to space.
You think so?
Yes, and I'll tell you why I think so. Because news came out in the last week or so. If you read IGN, you might have followed some of this.
I don't know. I've never heard of that site.
But so this is the thing. So we saw him like shooting up, and to me, and I know that I love this movie, so it would naturally have this moment. It felt so much to me like this moment in The Right Stuff, where I know you knew I was going there, where Chuck Yeager goes up and he breaks into the outer atmosphere, the inner atmosphere, and he like for a minute sort of sees space, and then the plane comes down. Whatever. The point is, like, the plane, it was going up and up and up and up, right? And I was like, he's going to space.
But what would he do?
How would he get to space? What would he do in space?
Well, how is he going to breathe?
Exactly. So that's probably not how that happened. But I do think he's still going to space, and this is why. Because when I interviewed Mark, and we talked about this a little bit before, but when I interviewed Mark Ruffalo, and it was just like, where could the Hulk go next? And Scarlett Johansson and he was like, well, there's lots of places he could go. Scarlett Johansson said, I know I talked about this before, but bear with me.
Oh, yeah.
Scarlett Johansson said, like where? And I was like, in space. And he goes, oh yeah, he's definitely going to space. And I was like, really?
Maybe he meant for Infinity War, though.
He goes, he's definitely going to space. And I was like, really? And then he goes, yeah, I mean, there's been talk of Planet Hulk. And then it came out later on that the rights actually for a solo Hulk movie, so the distribution rights for a solo Hulk movie are with Universal. So Disney doesn't have those distribution rights, though Marvel owns the character of the Hulk.
And
so
why give Universal any more money?
why would they give Universal money? So they're probably not going to do a solo Hulk movie at all, whether it's in space or not, because until those rights issues are worked out. However, Chris Carl and I postulate that the way you do this, and I don't know how he actually gets there, like he's not going to fly that, like he didn't fly into space right there unless somebody,
been UFO
unless
napped.
like Yondu came and picked him up or something, which who knows. But we postulate that Planet Hulk elements will play a role in Infinity War. And so it's not like you get a solo movie, but that you see elements of it, and he's not going to be here for Civil War, you know?
Joshua, didn't you
I
say
could
that
see-
in the comics that there's a reason why Hulk wasn't around in Civil War?
Because he was jettisoned off
in
the Earth in
space.
space. So here's riding off what you just said. If they do take him to
Ride
space,
my
which it
wave.
sounds like from what you said, they're probably going to. I would say, how do you take the Hulk off the map? If you're like Thanos and you're like, well, Hulk is very, even though I'm all powerful Thanos, I still have to deal with the Hulk. Why don't I jettison him off to a planet? So I can see him being captured.
Yeah,
interesting.
that's a
Taken
good-
off the board,
Ooh, I like it.
but they don't. He's like, I'm going to put him on this hostile alien
Yeah.
planet. He won't stand a chance. He goes there, crashes. Over the course of the movie, maybe sort of in the background, he again becomes a slave,
Yeah.
and you think he's going to die. Then he rises up, takes control of the planet, gets his warbound, the Hulk's warbound, and launches into space. Shows up much like the helicarrier did. He's the Deus Ex Machina of the movie with an army to help fight Thanos.
Oh, I like it.
IGN fanfic, rocking
Done.
it again.
It's
happened.
happening.
It could happen.
Yeah.
I have one quick thing that bums me out about, and it leads back to your point about the rights issues, which is Universal also has Namor the Submariner. So if the thing crashed in the ocean, maybe Submariner found him, and maybe they do a version of Planet Hulk, but it's in Atlantis or whatever.
Ooh.
Probably not going to happen because of the complicated rights issues. So wah wah.
Wah, wah.
But I'm sorry, you had an additional point you wanted to.
No, and I've made this point before too, is like not only is the Hulk not in Civil War in the comics, but like to me the Hulk can't be a part of that equation because whatever side he's on wins. Like,
It's bad enough with Thor.
you know, like, well, and Thor can't either. Like, it has to be sort of an even
Right.
divide.
Right.
Otherwise, like if you have the Hulk, you're like, guess who wins?
Yeah.
This guy.
Well,
Yeah.
we want to know where or what you guys would like to see happen with Hulk now that he's basically back on the run. He's separated from the team, no longer an Avenger until, of course, Infinity War comes along. So let us know in the comments what you think, where the Hulk went.
Where'd he go?
Where'd that Hulk go? I want to find out. Let's talk about the new lineup of the team revealed at the end. We have Captain America, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch, Vision, Falcon, and War Machine. I did think it was kind of funny about Falcon has that line at the party about how, like, I'm no Avenger or whatever. Like, he seems to be like the reluctant superhero, like, I know you, you'll do. You know, like, what do you think about this lineup? Is it a little too second tier?
I don't think so.
Coming
I
off
mean,
of Thor and Hulk and all that.
yeah, but I mean, like I was saying before, to me, if you have the Vision, like,
You got that stone.
you know, it's going to be very hard to argue with that team. Yeah. So and also, you know, Scarlet Witch has some powers. You know, she's pretty fierce. But him really, like, to me, it's like even the Avengers team that we've had so far in the movies that we've become used to, there's varying levels of power and strength, right? But they each bring something new to the table, and I think that it would just have to be that. But I do think audiences would have to get used to that idea with if it is exactly this group. I don't know that it will ultimately be exactly this group, you know?
Yeah.
Because we also have other movies coming
Well,
up.
we have Ant-Man coming up, and I was a little surprised that little Ant-Man didn't pop up there. But then again,
He was. You
there-
didn't see him?
He's right
But then
there.
again, though, there would be no context for that. So maybe I'm just speculating. Maybe the tag at the end of Ant-Man will be like, "Hey, you want to join the Avengers or whatever," or something like that.
Hey there.
Hey, you little fella! Come here, you bastard! Were you disappointed though that there was no Black Panther? I mean, we already know Chadwick Boseman's playing him.
Yeah.
I didn't expect, I guess, to see Ant-Man, Black Panther, or
Doctor Strange.
Spider-Man, or Doctor Strange really pop up in this. I feel like it was very dedicated to like establishing these new characters and showing how they fit into like what would become the new Avengers. New Avengers, which was
Yeah,
great to see.
the facility was named New Avengers.
Yes,
Do you
which-
think that is tipping the hand towards the
Yes,
comics, or just?
I think to general audiences, it's just the new Avengers
Yeah.
facility. But to comic book fans, it's like this is the new Avengers, which is made up of classic original Avengers and new heroes, which is awesome to see. It's always cool to see like the new lineup of that
Yeah.
that shot of them walking together. Scarlet Witch in her new costume, and did she get like her hair lightened? What was that about? Or did she wash it for the first time? Because it was a little rough in the,
I
in the
don't
movie.
quite remember her costume at the very end. What
It was
it?
much like it was before, but it was all sort of official looking
Yeah.
with the black underneath and the red coat. As far as like the power balance of the team, well, let's go through one by one. Cap and Widow, they're obviously themselves from the earlier team. Vision, he sort of takes up the Thor role
Yeah.
of like being all power and extra crazy powers and stuff. Iron Man is replaced by War Machine. While he doesn't have the genius intellect that is so often gotten the Avengers and Iron Man out of so many spots, he still has like all the capabilities, and he's got like the fighting spirit, obviously, of an Avenger to be in there. So I think that kind of compensates for Iron Man. And then Falcon, I don't know.
It's kind of like Hawkeye.
He's our Hawkeye.
What really counted against him was that he wasn't in the final battle, along with War Machine helping to load up and defend the helicarrier.
Yeah.
I thought that would have been the perfect. Why not? Like War Machine was there. Why not have Falcon, both of them there, say, "Hey, we're here to help."
Yeah, why not get
Did-
everybody?
Given your
Yeah.
analogy, then, is Scarlet Witch sort of their Hulk, the kind of
Oh
powder
yeah, I forgot
keg
about
one?
her. Goodness, who does she sort of replace? I don't see. Again, I guess it's not a one-to-one, but she is so powerful. And again, if you've like read the comic books, you wouldn't even need to read the comic books to see what she can do. But she goes to like another level with her powers.
Yeah, so I think she is kind of the Hulk because she's
Yeah.
also she's had some trauma.
Yeah.
And she's a little overwrought.
Little
and
unpredictable.
She's a little unpredictable.
Yeah.
And like I think Joss Whedon said this leading into the movie to why is Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch is that she has a much different power set than everyone
Yeah.
else that's much more like useful in a lot of ways to like get into someone's head and like mess with them and stuff. I think that's great to see on the team.
Would you have liked to see Quicksilver? I hate to look at it in these terms, but I feel like with Quicksilver dying and them deciding not to continue on with him, they were like, yeah, have it, Fox. I mean, that's how I feel. I really
like
do.
X-Men's Quicksilver better.
I tell you what, I have some theories. Actually, I have two theories, but the first one is that we will see Quicksilver again, alive in the movies. There's no way they signed that guy on for one movie. And the reason I say this is because Infinity Gauntlet, the story, it's all about life and death.
Yeah.
People dying and coming back to life. So I definitely see like the team being faced with everyone who's sort of died and having to confront them, and Quicksilver will be one of them. In fact, I would not be surprised if multiple heroes die before Infinity War.
Oh, yeah.
And in Infinity War, especially Part 1, then when 2 comes, a lot of them will be returned to us.
But
I
not
think.
all of them, because contracts will be
Because
up.
of contracts.
That's right. There's one thing the Infinity Gauntlet can't fight, and it's
It's a
lawyers
contract.
and agents. Were there any other sort of elements of Avengers: Age of Ultron that you found, I don't know, troubling? Something that didn't really work for you?
I'll say the end tag. Of course, it was really cool to see Thanos come in there, grab the empty Infinity Gauntlet with 6 slots, that he's going to fill up with the Infinity Stones. But the line didn't make sense to me. He said, "Fine, I'll do it myself," implying that he had someone else working to get the gems for him. Of course, we saw that in Guardians, and I guess he lent one out in the first Avengers movie to Loki, which, why would you do that if you want to collect these? But who in Avengers Age of Ultron was working for him? My theory is that, you know how they tried to make Ultron and it didn't work? They failed, right? Something created that AI and made,
It was
I
the
think
Chitauri tech from
Yeah, it was
Loki's
the
scepter.
tech.
Right, no, but I'm thinking but why did that happen? I feel like he personally may have reached out and sort of used his power to nudge Ultron into existence, thinking Ultron would destroy the Avengers and the world and bring him the gem. That's just sort of my theory. I mean, you can poke holes in it, but what do you think? Because why else did he say that? Then why
they've
did he
done
say,
more convoluted
Yeah.
things. I think maybe it was, to me, I read that tag almost more as a comment on Guardians
Yeah, I did too.
and Ronan blowing it.
Yeah, fine, I'll do it myself.
But wouldn't it belong at the tag of Guardians then? It doesn't make sense
Well,
to put
I
it
think
in
that-
Avengers 2.
but-
Hey, what was Hawkeye's line about? I got a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
There's aliens or
Yeah.
whatever, and we're
yeah,
on a floating island. None of this makes sense.
none
I
of
think.
this makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
no. This has to. What was he referring to in Age of Ultron?
Yeah,
was
but I
it
don't
not?
think he was referring to anything in Age of Ultron, but often the tags are not directly connected to that movie. You know what I mean? They're connected to whatever's coming. Whether you're seeing the Collector
Yeah.
at the end of, I believe it was Winter Soldier. Yes, Winter Soldier.
No, it was
or-
the end of
or the
Thor,
end of
Thor 2,
Thor,
because they
Thor
brought
2,
the
yeah,
that
because-
was directly connected though, because
yeah,
they
because
found
it
the
was-
Infinity
Because
Stone
they
and
had
brought it to
Sif.
him.
Okay, fine. Poke holes in my
No,
theory.
but I would. Well, even in Winter Soldier, it was Baron von Strucker of Hydra.
That's true.
You know, so
Fine.
there usually is
Boy,
connective
he didn't
tissue.
last long in that movie. though,
No,
huh? They
that
killed
was a
him off real
surprise.
fast.
I will say this though about the gauntlet itself, because a lot of people are like, "Wait a minute, it's on Asgard. Why does he have it?" Right? Like, did we have that question? But a friend of ours, Eric Eisenberg, I believe of Cinema Blend, got the answer from Kevin Feige. I don't know if I can say this. Shoot.
Well, stay tuned for next week's podcast where we'll address that it's a cliffhanger. That's our tag. We want to know what you think of the new Avengers lineup and your overall thoughts on the movie, things that worked for you, things that didn't, what you thought of the tag. Joshua's theory about it was Thanos behind Ultron, you know? So let us know in the comments below.